The Perfection of Yoga, Chapter 7. Yoga as Reestablishing Relationship with Krishna. We have heard many times of the yoga system. The yoga system is approved by Bhagavad Gita, but the yoga system in Bhagavad Gita is specially meant for purification. The aim is threefold: to control the senses, to purify the activities, and to link oneself to Krishna in a reciprocal relationship. The absolute truth is realized in three stages: impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, Supersoul, and ultimately Bhagwan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the final analysis, the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person. Simultaneously, he is the all pervading Supersoul within the hearts of all living entities and within the core of all atoms, and he is the Brahmjyoti or the effulgence of spiritual light as well. Sri Bhagavan Sri Krishna is full of all opulences as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time he is full of all renunciation. In the material world, we find that one who has much opulence is not very much inclined to give it up. But Krishna is not like this. He can renounce everything and remain complete in himself. When we read or study Bhagavad Gita under a bona fide spiritual master, we should not think that the spiritual master is presenting his own opinions. It is not he who is speaking, he is just an instrument. The real speaker is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is both within and without. At the beginning of his discourse on the yoga system in the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Anashritha karma phalam kariyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriha. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, nor he who lights no fire and performs no work. Everyone is working and expecting some result. One may ask, what is the purpose of working if no result is expected? A remuneration or salary is always demanded by the worker. But here Krishna indicates that one can work out of a sense of duty alone, not expecting the result of his activities. If one works in this way, then he is actually a sannyasi. He is in the renounced order of life. According to the Vedic culture, there are four stages of life: brahmachari, grastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Brahmachari is a student life devoted to the training in spiritual understanding. Grastha life is married household life. Then, upon reaching the approximate age of 50, one may take the vanaprastha order, that is, he leaves his home and children and travel with his wife to holy places of pilgrimage. Finally, he gives up both wife and children and remains alone to cultivate Krishna consciousness. And that stage is called sannyas or the renounced order of life. Yet Krishna indicates that for a sannyasi, renunciation is not all. In addition, there must be some duty. What then is the duty for a sannyasi? For one who has renounced family life and no longer has material obligations. His duty is the most responsible one. It is to work for Krishna. Moreover, this is the real duty for everyone in all stages of life. In everyone's life, there is a two duties. One is to serve the illusion, and the other is to serve the reality. When one serves the reality, he is the real sannyasi, and when one serves the illusion, he is the deluded by Maya. One has to understand, however, that he is in all circumstances forced to serve. Either he serves the illusion or the reality. The constitutional position of the living entity is to be servant, not a master. This is the very practical. One may think that he is the master, but he is actually a servant. When one has a family, he may think that he is the master of his wife, or his children, or his home, business, and so on. But that is all false. One is actually the servant of his wife, of his children, and of his business. The president may be considered the master of the country, but actually he is the servant of the country. Our position is always a servant, either a servant of the illusion or as a servant of the God. If, however, we remain the servant of the illusion, then our life is wasted. Of course, everyone is thinking that he is not a servant, that he is working only for himself, although the fruits of his labor are transient and illusory, and they force him to become a servant of illusion or a servant of his own senses. But when one awakens to his transcendental senses and actually becomes situated in knowledge, he then becomes a servant of the reality. When one comes to the platform of knowledge, he understands that in all circumstances he is a servant. Since it is not possible for him to be a master, he is much better situated serving the reality instead of illusion. When one becomes aware of this, he attains the platform of real knowledge. By sannyas, the renounced order of life, we refer to one who has come to this platform. Sannyasa is a question of realization, not social status. It is a duty of everyone to become Krishna conscious and to serve the cause of Krishna or God. When one actually realizes this, he becomes a Mahatma, a great soul. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that after many births, when one comes to the platform of real knowledge, he surrenders unto me. Why is this? Vasudeva Sarvameti Sa Mahatma Durlabha. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. The wise man realized that Vasudeva Krishna is everything. However, Krishna says that such a great soul is rarely found. Why is this? If an intelligent person comes to understand that the ultimate goal of life is to surrender unto Krishna, why should he hesitate? Why not surrender immediately? What is the point in waiting for so many births? When one comes to that point of surrender, he becomes a real sannyasi. Krishna never forces anyone to surrender unto him. That is his prerogative. Surrender is a result of love and transcendental love. Where there is a force and where there is no freedom, there can be no love. When a mother loves a child, she is not forced to do so, nor does he should do out of expectation of some salary or remuneration. Similarly, we can love the Supreme Lord in so many ways. We can love Him as a master, as a servant, as a child, or as a husband. There are five basic rasas or relationships in which we are eternally related to God, Krishna. When we are actually in the liberated stage of knowledge, we can understand that our relationship with the Lord in a particular rasa. That platform is called Savrupa Siddhi or real self realization. Everyone has an eternal relationship with the Lord, either as a master and a servant, friend, parent and child, husband and wife, or lover and beloved. These relationships are eternally present. The whole process of spiritual realization and the actual perfection of yoga is to revive our consciousness of this relationship. At present, our relationship with the Supreme Lord is pervertedly reflected in this material world. In the material world, the relationship between master and servant is based on money or force or exploitation. There is no question of service out of love. The relationship between master and servant, pervertedly reflected, continues only for so long as the master can pay the servant. As soon as the payment stops, the relationship also stops. Similarly, in the material world, there may be some relationship between friends, but as soon as there is slight disagreement, the friendship breaks and the friends become an enemy. When there is a difference of opinion between a son and parents, the son leaves home and the relationship is severed. The same with husband and wife, a slight difference of opinion and there is a divorce. No relationship in this material world is actual or eternal. We must always remember that these ephemeral relationships are simply perverted reflection of that eternal relationship we have with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have experienced that the reflection of an object in a glass is not real. It may appear real, but when we go to touch it, we find that there is only glass. We must come to understand that these relationships are friend, parent, child, master, servant, husband, wife, or lover are simply a reflection of that relationship we have with God. When we come to this platform of understanding, then we are perfect in knowledge. When that knowledge comes, we begin to understand that we are servants of Krishna and that we have an eternal love relationship with Him. In this love relationship, there is no question of remuneration. But of course, remuneration is there, and it is much greater than whatever we earn here through the rendering of service. There is no limit to Sri Krishna remuneration. In this connection, there is a story of Bali Maharaj, a very powerful king who conquered a number of planets. The denizens of heavenly planets appealed to the Supreme Lord to save them, for they had been conquered by the demonic king Bali Maharaj. Upon hearing their pleas, Sri Krishna took the shape of a dwarf Brahman boy and approached Bali Maharaj, saying, "My dear king, I would like something from you. You are a very great monarch and are renowned for giving in charity to the Brahmins. So, would you give me something? Balimra said, I will give you what you want. I simply want whatever land I can cover in 3 steps. The boy said, Oh, is that is all? The king replied, and and what will you do with such a small piece of land? Though it may be small, it will suffice me. The boy smiled. Bali Maharaj agreed, and the boy dwarf took 2 steps and covered the entire universe. He then asked Bali Maharaj where he was going to take his 3rd step, and Bali Maharaj, understanding that the Supreme Lord was showing him his favor, replied, My dearest Lord, I have now lost everything. I have no other property, but I do have my head. Would you so kindly step there? Lord Shri Krishna was then very much pleased with Bali Maharaj, and he asked, What would you like from me? I never expected anything from you, Bali Maharaj said, but I understand that you wanted something from me, and now I have offered you everything. Yes, the Lord said, but from my side I have something for you. I shall remain always as the order carrier servant in your court. In this way, the Lord became Bali Maharaj's doorman, and that was his return. If we offer something to the Lord, it is returned millions of times. But we should not expect this. This is out of pure love. The Lord is always eager to return the service of his servant. Whoever thinks that the service of the Lord is actually his duty is perfect in knowledge and has attained the perfection of yoga. The perfection of yoga, chapter 8. The perfection of yoga. In fact, there that in the progress of the living entity toward the perfection of yoga, birth in a family of yogis or devotees is a great boon, for such a birth gives one special impetus. प्रियातनाद्यात्मनस्तु योगी संशुद्धा किलिबिषाम् अनेका जन्म सम्मसिद्धास् ततो यति paramam gatim. But when the yogi engages himself with a sincere endeavor in making further progress, being vast of all contamination, then ultimately, after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. When one is finally freed from all contamination, he attains the supreme perfection of the yoga system, Krishna consciousness. Absorption in Krishna is the perfect state, as Krishna himself confirms. Bahunam janmanvante jnanvan mam prapadante. Vasudeva Sarvameti Samatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrender unto me, knowing me to be cause of all causes, all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Thus, after many lifetimes of executing pious activities, when one becomes freed from all contamination arising from illusory dualities, he engages in the transcendental service of the Lord. Sri Krishna concludes his discourse on this subject in this way. योगिनाम अपि सर्वेषां मत्कन्तेनात्मनं श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां सा मे युक्तात्मनो मथा. On all of the yogis who always abide me with a great faith, worshipping in me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. It therefore follows that the culmination of all yogas lies in Bhakti Yoga, the rendering of devotional service unto Krishna. Actually, all of the yogas, all of the yogas delineated in the Bhagavad Gita, and on this note, for Krishna is the ultimate destination of all the yoga system. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self realization. Karma Yoga without fruitive result is the beginning of this path. When one Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, its stage is called Jnana Yoga, or the Yoga of knowledge. When when Jnana Yoga increase in meditation on the super soul by different physical process and the mind is on the him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga system. And one is surpass Ashtanga Yoga and come to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, that is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand the other processes. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path to eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, Dhyana Yogi, Raj Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. etc. But if one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all the other yoga systems. Krishna consciousness is the last link in the yogic chain, the link that binds us to the Supreme Person, Lord Sri Krishna. Without this final link, the chain is practically useless. Those who are truly interested in the perfection of the yoga process should immediately take to Krishna consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, understanding Bhagavad Gita, and rendering service to Krishna through this society for Krishna consciousness, and thereby surpass all other systems and attain the ultimate goal of all the yoga, the love of Krishna. Hare Krishna.